What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Trust Your Board podcast. My name's Stephen Wright. As always, I'm joined by Mr. William Monroe. We got another mini mock draft on the docket for you here today. Will, what are we doing?
Steve, today we have a 12-team PPR, and I will be drafting out of the 12th slot, while you will be drafting out of the 4th slot.
Beautiful. You ready to get the ball rolling here?
Pitter patter.
Let's get it going here. So we had Christian McCaffrey go off the board first, Saquon Barkley, and then Michael Thomas going off third. Makes this pick pretty easy for me personally. I've mentioned before in other mocks that Zeke is my third guy up. I wouldn't doubt it if you went with a Kamara or even like a Cook now that maybe the holdout's not happening, but I'm a Zeke guy, so I'm just going to stop talking and lock him in here. So after my pick, we did have Kamara, Dalvin Cook, Josh Jacobs, Devontae Adams, your second wide receiver off the board at the 8th spot, Kenyon Drake, Derrick Henry, and Miles Sanders. Pick to you, Will. All
right, so no tight ends, no quarterbacks off the board, but also not in my current consideration. So we're looking at just two positions here, wide receiver, running back, being that there's a pretty long wait till my next pick after these two. I think it's going to be either running back, receiver, or running back, just because, as we've talked in recent weeks, how quickly that evaporates. So if we're looking at the wide receiver position, we got Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, and DeAndre Hopkins, probably the only three in consideration there. While at running back, we have Joe Mixon, Nick Chubb. Really just those two that I'd be debating here. Probably going to go Mixon first. So then the decision, comes down to Nick Chubb or one of those elite receivers, and that's Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, DeAndre Hopkins. Normally, I think I'd probably go two running backs, but for the sake of a mock draft here, we'll see what happens if we go one running back and one wide receiver. So we'll lock in first Joe Mixon. That's the first pick, and the second one, really going back and forth between Tyreek Hill and Julio Jones. I think I'd have Tyreek Hill slightly ahead of Julio, but really that Hill, Jones, Hopkins tier, you can't go wrong with any of them. I'm just going to go with who I perceive as the best quarterback there, and Tyreek Hill having Pat Mahomes start him. So we'll lock it in here for Joe Mixon and Tyreek Hill. After that goes Julio Jones, Nick Chubb, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, DeAndre Hopkins, Aaron Jones, and Austin Eckler.
Very interesting. Normally you've seen Lamar Jackson off the board by now. That's a little bit different. But I'm in a tough spot. I did want to try your strategy as well as going with a wide receiver and kind of going back and forth, but I really wanted like Hopkins. But I'm fine with Godwin here. We have Godwin, Golladay, Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, Allen Robinson. So plenty of solid options. I might actually go back-to-back wide receivers just to play around and see what that looks like when we're done. So I don't think I've done that too much this year. But we'll give it a shot, see what happens. So we're going to lock it Godwin first. A nice, solid, safer play with plenty of upside to him, as we know. After that pick went Clyde Edwards-Helaire. There's Lamar Jackson at 211, and George Kittle rounds out the second. Starting with the third, we have Todd Gurley, Mike Evans, and James Conner. So a very interesting spot here. We have Kenny Golladay, we have Adam Thielen, we have Allen Robinson, Juju, OBJ, Amari Cooper. And just to read off the running backs, some solid options still here. Good volume plays. Fournette, David Johnson, Chris Carson, Lev Bell, Melvin Gordon. So still some solid running backs there. But I'll stick that strategy and I'll go with another wide receiver. And it's a tough one. I mean, Golladay jumps out at me, but everyone knows that I'd rather just draft Marvin Jones late. But in this kind of strategy, I'd rather have a Golladay here, and instead of a Marvin Jones, I just load up another running back. Thielen's also in consideration, Allen Robinson, all three of them really. Juju, maybe, but more so those three. I think I'm just going to go ahead and draft Golladay. I mean, we're not going to get far enough to the Marvin Jones side of things, but let's swap that out for a running back and just load up on running back. So we'll lock him in there. Give me a nice start of Zeke, Godwin, and Golladay. After that pick went Thielen, and then Allen Robinson, Leonard Fournette, Lev Bell, Juju, OBJ, and Chris Carson. Picks to you.
Right. Puts me in an interesting spot here because I figured I'd probably be going, once again, running back, wide receiver. But there's a couple running backs that, other than them, I don't think there's really going to be much that gets back to me, and David Johnson and Melvin Gordon. It's interesting. The only thing that really gives me pause at the wide receiver position is a DJ Moore. AJ Brown's interesting as well. You got Cooper Kupp, Maury Cooper there as well. But I like the upside of DJ Moore, and I think there's going to be more consistency there. I think even over Cooper, I think Cooper Kupp probably would be the only other one that I would really be thinking here. But I think I'm going to lock in first here David Johnson. I just like the volume that we're going to get with him over Melvin Gordon. So we're going to lock in David Johnson first to be my second running back. And then it's a debate here between Melvin Gordon or a wide receiver like a DJ Moore, Cooper Kupp, AJ Brown. We're only doing 5 rounds, right, Steve?
That is correct, yeah.
So we'd be looking at just one more player there.
I mean, I guess since you're right there, we can discuss your 6-1 too.
Yeah, you could talk about them both. We'll pivot here, and I'll see what happens going a little running back heavy there, already having the upset of Tyreek Hill. So we'll see what happens if I go Melvin as well, and what kind of receivers would fall to me in this next round. So we'll go Melvin Gordon as well. Looks like David Johnson, Melvin Gordon on that second back-to-back. After that is a wide receiver run in Cooper Kupp, Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley, A.J. Brown, DJ Moore, and then Mark Ingram, Mark Andrews to you.
Yeah, I got kind of lucky. It definitely left some decent running backs for me here. I got Jonathan Taylor, David Montgomery, Devin Singletary, Cam Akers. So I got some solid guys here that I'm pretty comfortable in my 2 spot. So I think I don't know what I should be doing. I feel like I should be going with the volume play that David Montgomery represents. But you also have the issue of like seeing where that volume led him last year, where he just wasn't that valuable. You would know that firsthand.
Yeah.
He wasn't that great to have in redraft last year down the stretch. And so it makes me kind of lean just taking the upside shot on Jonathan Taylor, even though, I mean, I should be going safety. I don't want to, and maybe that's just the gambler mentality that's creeping its head up here. But that's what I'm going to do. We're going to lock in Jonathan Taylor, and maybe Montgomery gets back to me, or maybe Singletary gets back to me. Both would be solid plays for my third, and I'd be really liking that team. So let's lock it in. Montgomery didn't get back to me. He went right after. Then we had Terry McLaurin, G.J. Chark, Kareem Hunt, DK Metcalf, and Robert Woods. So I am back up. Devin Singletary did make it to me, as did Raheem Mostert. So 2 solid options here. I will run down all the positions. We have all our quarterbacks outside of Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. We have all our tight ends outside of Kelsey, Kittle, and Andrews. I just ran down the running backs. We have a few others. So Singletary, Akers, Mostert, Swift, Damian Williams, Rojo, James White, J.K. Dobbins. And at the wide receiver position, since so many has gone off, we have Tyler Lockett, T.Y. Hilton, Keenan Allen, Cortland Sutton, Stefon Diggs, A.J. Green. So still some solid options, although if the run continues, well, you're going to be in the riskier categories.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Only a few left that I'm hoping for at this next pick, so we'll see.
I know you've drafted Parker in the past. I'm sure he'll get to you.
Yeah.
But I will go ahead and lock in my third running back here, and I feel like it's between Singletary and Mostert. I'm not sure which one of them's safer. Probably Mostert. I worry about Singletary's touchdowns all being taken away from him. I mean, it's been a narrative that's been building here. So I will go ahead and go with Mostert. A little bit of a risk because we know what happens in San Francisco sometimes. But as my RB3, I'm pretty comfortable there. So we'll lock him in. Kyler went off right after me. Then Tyler Lockett, Devin Singletary, Cortland Sutton, T.Y. Hilton, Zach Ertz, and Cam Akers.
Interesting. Lockett, Hilton, and Ertz were 3 guys that were definitely on my board. The one that definitely is still sitting there is Keenan Allen. Hard to pass up that value here in the 5th round. But as you mentioned, Devontae Parker would probably be another person I'd be looking at. I do like I'm rising on Hollywood Brown, but I feel like I've already got my Tyreek Hill, and I think that
I think Keenan Allen fits that better.
Yeah,
your traditional PPR guy with your boom guy, right?
Exactly right. And then still got the likes of Jarvis Landry as well, Tyler Boyd. So other safe guys should Keenan Allen have not been there, but I think Allen just makes the most sense. And then probably be looking at Devontae Parker, or even going with a fourth running back and grabbing like a Swift or somebody in the 6th round, just because you can't have too many running backs. But to end our draft here, I will be taking Mr. Keenan Allen.
Okay, so that's going to wrap things up here. So give myself a rundown here. In the first round, I went with Zeke. In the second, Chris Godwin. In the third, Kenny Golladay. In the fourth, Jonathan Taylor. And in the fifth, Raheem Mostert. This team actually interests me a lot. And maybe because it kind of feels like the gambly kind of stuff that I would do in the past that I've tried very hard to get away from, because this team could absolutely blow up in my face if Jonathan Taylor's in a 50-50 timeshare all year and Mostert's this back and forth kind of guy that we see in San Francisco. So there's a lot of risk here. But I mean, if Jonathan Taylor takes over that role and Mostert remains in that role, this team's dynamite to start. So probably more that gambler mentality, but I like it so far. What do you think of your team?
Yeah, one thing I'd say about yours, I just don't know what to think about Kenny Golladay. I feel like just overall, and it's the same thing that you mentioned earlier with the Marvin Jones, right? I'd much rather wait if I really wanted to get a weapon there. But I do think Hawkinson's going to take a step forward. I don't know. I've been souring a little bit more on Kenny G in recent weeks.
Well, Montez Cephas is there, Yeah. That's a big name. It's been a month since we've mentioned him. I just had to throw him in there.
Cephas is your boy, so I'll give you that one. But taking a look at my team, round 1, Joe Mixon. Round 2, Tyreek Hill. Round 3, David Johnson. Round 4, Melvin Gordon. And round 5, Keenan Allen. Overall, I think it's not a bad team. Looking back, I probably would not have doubled down in that 3rd, 4th round. Probably would have stayed with David Johnson as the 3 and gone with either a Cooper Kupp or a DJ Moore as my wide receiver 2 there. It kind of frees me up in this, in this 5th, 6th round turn to go with a guy like Swift, and then not really be locked into needing a safe receiver. I could go with an upside AJ Green, a more boom bust Marquise Hollywood Brown in the 6th round, something like that to pair with already having a Tyreek Hill Cooper Kupp stack or Tyreek Hill DJ Moore. But overall, pretty good. Interesting to not go wide or RB heavy as we have in recent weeks.
Yeah, fair enough. That's going to wrap everything up for us today. Got another mini mock on the way for you tomorrow. Until then, folks, trust your board.